For years, they whispered about lizard people in the Rockies. Strange shapes in the trees, eyes watching from beneath the snow. People went missing. Search teams found nothing. And the mountains stayed quiet until the government made a call they never acknowledged making. A unit that doesn't exist, sent into a place that didn't want them there. What you're about to hear is a reconstruction of a mission that vanished without a trace, except for 6 rifles, and sounds no human should ever make. This is Whispers of the Military. Some missions are never acknowledged. Some reports are sealed away, classified, forgotten, denied. But behind closed doors and redacted files, the truth still echoes. These are the stories they never briefed the public on, the operations that went wrong, and the ones that were never meant to be found. You're listening to the whispers that survived the silence. This is Whispers of the Military. The interruption. The team had been on a rare stand-down, 7 days scheduled after their last operation. A reset, a chance to breathe. 2 days into it, the secure phones lit up. No codes, no pleasantries. Report immediately. Every member knew what that meant. Within hours, 6 operators were back inside the briefing room, gear bags at their feet, fatigue still clinging to them. The lights dimmed, satellite images filled the wall, dense stretches of the Rocky Mountains marked with red zones. Missing persons reports, recovered clothing, thermal anomalies, unidentified biological traces. The briefer didn't use the term lizard people, but he didn't deny it either. 12 hours later, Unit 6 was airborne. 30 minutes out, the transport aircraft roared through the upper airspace, engines droning steady and loud. Inside, the men sat strapped in, helmets resting against the bulkhead, weapons secured. No one spoke. 30 minutes from insertion, one of the operators, Staff Sergeant David McKenzie, leaned toward the small window and looked down at the endless sweep of forested ridgelines below. That's when he saw it, a flash of movement, something upright, human-shaped, but wrong. The proportions were off, too fluid. The skin caught the light in a way skin shouldn't. Greenish, scaled. Mac blinked, focused. The thing was gone. No sound, no movement, just forest again. He said nothing. No sense spooking the team over something he couldn't prove. The insertion. The helicopters dropped them several kilometers from the designated campsite, rotors kicking up leaves and dirt before vanishing back into the sky. The hike would take half the day. From the first step, the forest felt wrong. The air was heavy, charged. The birds were silent. Plants grew in clusters they didn't recognize. Broad-leafed flowers with waxy skin and veins that pulsed faintly when touched. Trees bore scrape marks, long, vertical gouges far too high to be animal. Patches of translucent slime clung to bark and rock, stretching into threads when disturbed. Then they found the clothing, a jacket snagged on a branch, a hiking boot half buried in moss, a torn shirt stained dark but bone dry. No bodies, no camps, and no reason for any of it to be there. The deeper Unit 6 moved into the Rockies, the more certain they became of one thing. They weren't alone, and whatever lived out here didn't want to be found. The fog didn't roll in, it settled. It clung to the evergreens like wet gauze, heavy and unmoving, muting sound and swallowing distance. Every breath tasted damp and metallic as the 5 remaining members of Unit 6 moved carefully along the ridgeline, rifles up, spacing tight. They were searching for Staff Sergeant David McKenzie, or what was left of him. Mac's tracks cut cleanly through the snow for nearly 200 meters, then ended abruptly, as if he'd been lifted straight off the ground. No drag marks, no blood, just a shallow depression in the snow directly beneath where his stride stopped. The snow there was wrong, half melted, half burned. Blackened ice curled inward at the edges, steaming faintly despite the sub-zero temperature. And carved into the exposed rock beside it were claw marks, 3-toed, deep and deliberate. Each groove was the width of a man's thigh, raked upward as if whatever made them had climbed the stone. No animal in that region could do that. No machine either. Captain Elias Renner felt the weight settle in his chest. He raised his radio again, cycling frequencies. Base, this is Unit 6 actual. We have visual anomalies. Repeat, static. Not the sharp hiss of interference. Something lower, a hum that vibrated through bone more than sound. It made teeth ache, made the snow at their boots tremble almost imperceptibly. Sergeant Monroe, their comms and electronic warfare specialist, frowned, tapping at his gear. That's not jamming, he said quietly. That's something else, like the signals being swallowed. No one like that. If you're enjoying the video so far, please take a second to like and subscribe. It's a huge help to the channel. Thank you. Now back to the story. The second night, the temperature plummeted without warning. 20 degrees in less than an hour. Breath crystallized midair. Weapons frosted over despite constant checks. Renner ordered perimeter flares every 50 meters. When they ignited, the light barely reached beyond arm's length. The fog consumed everything. From above, the camp would have looked like scattered embers floating in an endless gray sea. That's when the voices started. At first faint, broken, like radio chatter bleeding across channels, then clearer, familiar. Max found a way in. Don't move, don't move. They're right behind you. The voices were wrong. They carried the cadence of their own team, the same inflections, the same pauses, but the words hadn't been spoken, not by anyone alive. The men tightened formation, weapons sweeping. Then Monroe screamed. They spun in unison. Monroe stood frozen, slowly lifting his NVGs off his face with trembling hands. His eyes were wide, unfocused. There were 3 of them, he whispered, half crouched, half standing, watching us. His breathing hitched. Their eyes, he said, they glowed from the inside out, like something looking through us. He blinked, and whatever he'd seen was gone. The fog pressed closer. Dawn of the 3rd day. The sun never fully rose. A dim, sickly light filtered through the clouds, as if the sky itself were being throttled. Shadows stretched wrong. Depth perception failed. Renner ordered a withdrawal toward the LZ. They didn't make it half a mile. Monroe vanished mid-stride. 1 second, his boots crunched through snow beside them. The next, nothing. A fine gray mist hung in the air where he'd been. Ash drifted down slowly, settling on their shoulders. Beneath it, the snow was punctured clean through, edges glassy, as if burned from below. No scream, no struggle, just absence. Then the radio crackled. Mac's voice, weak, distorted, whispering directly into their skulls more than their ears. Underground, they're not from here. Renner's blood ran cold. 9 hours, QRF was still inbound. Unit 6 didn't wait. They followed the signal. It led them to a narrow fault-line cave, half buried beneath a rock slide that hadn't been there on satellite imagery from 2 days prior. The opening pulsed faintly, as if breathing. Inside, it wasn't stone. The walls were warm, wet, elastic. They flexed under gloved hands. This wasn't a cave, it was a tunnel. Grown. At the end lay a chamber glowing green, like seawater under moonlight. Suspended within it were humanoid silhouettes, their eyes opening slowly as the team entered. Slit pupils, scales threaded with bioluminescent veins. Intelligent, aware. Renner didn't hesitate. Fire, grenades, rifle bursts, white phosphorus. The chamber filled with steam and ichor that smelled of iron and ozone. The shapes dissolved, collapsing into vapor. For one breathless moment, silence. Then the mountain moved. A roar rolled through the ground, too low to hear, too deep to ignore. Fissures split the walls. The tunnel undulated, revealing dozens, hundreds of shapes crawling forward. The last transmission base ever received was distorted, breaking apart mid-sentence. They're not lizards, they're engineers. The mountain's alive. The channel went dead. 9 hours later, the quick reaction force finally broke through the storm. and reached the last known coordinates of Unit 6. There were no survivors. The landing zone was wrong from the start. Snow had been scorched into black glass, frozen in rippling waves as if heat had rolled across it in pulses rather than explosions. Patches of ice were melted clean through to bare rock, the stone beneath warped and blistered like it had been exposed to something far hotter than conventional fire. Metal fragments lay half buried in the drifts, unrecognizable remains of equipment, their edges smoothed and curled inward, as if they had softened and flowed before cooling again. At the center of the site, 6 rifles were arranged neatly side by side. Thank you for staying with us until the end. These stories deserve to be remembered and told with care. If this episode moved you, please consider hitting like and subscribing. It's a small action that helps keep these voices from fading into silence. Until next time, listen closely. The whispers are never truly gone.